The day my son pretended not to know me, I smiled like it didn't hurt. I was standing near the entrance of a large hotel ballroom holding a small gift bag against my chest while people in expensive clothes walked past me laughing and talking loudly around me. Everything inside that building felt elegant and unfamiliar. And for a moment, honestly, I wondered if I belonged there at all. But my son invited me himself. So I came. I still remember spending almost 2 hours choosing what to wear that evening. I tried on nearly every dress I owned before finally settling on a simple navy dress I had kept hidden for special occasions. I even borrowed a pair of earrings from my neighbor because I wanted to look nice for my son. Because when you raise a child alone for most of your life, their success starts feeling like your success. My name is Margaret. I'm 62 years old and my son Daniel used to be the center of my world. After my husband died, Daniel was only 5 years old. For a long time, it was just the two of us struggling through life together in a tiny apartment with leaking ceilings and broken cabinets. I worked multiple jobs for years, cleaning offices, washing clothes for wealthy families, and sometimes staying awake almost entire nights sewing clothes just to make enough money for rent and school fees. There were days I skipped meals pretending I wasn't hungry so Daniel could eat properly. But I never complained, not once. Because every sacrifice felt worth it whenever I looked at my son and imagined the beautiful future waiting ahead of him someday. Daniel was an intelligent boy, quiet, kind, determined. Even as a little boy, he used to hug me tightly and whisper things like, "Don't worry, Mom, one day I'll buy you a beautiful house." And honestly, I believed him. Years passed and eventually Daniel received a scholarship to one of the best universities in the country. I still remember crying alone in the bathroom after reading the acceptance letter because for the first time in years, life finally felt hopeful. Things changed quickly after university. Daniel became successful faster than either of us expected. He got a high-paying job in a technology company, started traveling often, bought expensive clothes, moved into luxury apartments, and slowly built a completely different life from the one we used to share together. At first, I was proud of him. Every time he called me excitedly talking about promotions or business trips, I listened happily for hours, even when I barely understood half of the things he described. But slowly things between us began changing. The phone calls became shorter. The visits became less frequent. Sometimes weeks passed without hearing from him at all. Whenever I asked if he was eating properly or sleeping enough, he sounded distracted, almost impatient. Like my questions no longer belonged in his new world anymore. Still, I kept defending him whenever neighbors asked why my son rarely visited. "He's busy working," I would say proudly. Successful people have demanding lives. The truth was that I missed him terribly one evening. After almost 3 months without seeing him, Daniel finally called unexpectedly. "Mom," he said quickly, "my company is hosting a big celebration this Friday. We're honoring senior executives and important investors. I think it would mean a lot if you came." I don't think he understood how happy those words made me. The entire week, I kept telling everyone in my neighborhood that my son wanted me at an important event. I even visited the salon to fix my hair properly for the first time in months because I wanted Daniel to feel proud introducing me to people. That Friday evening, I arrived almost 40 minutes early because I was nervous about getting lost. The hotel was beautiful. Massive crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, soft music played in the background, and people walked around confidently holding glasses of wine, discussing business in voices that sounded important and educated. I suddenly became aware of my age, my clothes, my accent, my simple life. For a moment, I considered leaving before Daniel arrived because I felt painfully out of place. Then I saw him. He stood across the ballroom wearing an elegant black suit while laughing with a group of wealthy-looking guests. He looked so handsome and successful that my chest immediately filled with pride. That little boy from our tiny apartment had somehow become this competent man standing among powerful people. I smiled instantly and started walking toward them. At first, Daniel didn't notice me. But then our eyes met and something strange happened. His smile disappeared. Not completely, just slightly. Like he suddenly became uncomfortable. I slowed down a little, confused by the expression on his face. But I kept walking toward him anyway because he was my son. One of the women standing beside him noticed me approaching and asked politely, "Oh, do you know her?" For a few seconds, Daniel said absolutely nothing, and then with a small awkward smile, he replied, "I think she's probably looking for someone else. Everything." Inside me went completely still. I honestly thought I had misunderstood him at first, but then Daniel avoided looking directly at me while continuing his conversation like nothing had happened, like I was a stranger, like he didn't know me. The same child I carried in my arms through fevers and hunger, the same little boy whose school uniforms I stayed awake sewing by hand because I couldn't afford new ones. The same son who once promised he would never let me suffer alone. In that moment, I felt something break quietly inside my chest, but somehow I still forced myself to smile. I lowered my eyes, turned around slowly, and walked away before anyone could notice the tears filling them. I don't even remember leaving the hotel properly. I just remember sitting alone at a bus stop later that night, crying silently while cars passed by in the rain. The small gift bag I brought for Daniel remained untouched beside me the entire time. Inside it was an old wristwatch that had belonged to his father before he died. Daniel used to love that watch when he was younger. He once told me that it reminded him of where he came from. I almost threw it away that night, but instead, I carried it home and placed it quietly back inside my drawer. After that evening, something changed inside me. I stopped calling Daniel first. I stopped asking neighbors if they had seen his interviews online. I stopped waiting near the window, hoping he might surprise me with a visit. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to admit something painful. My son was ashamed of me. About 2 months later, I became sick. At first, I ignored the symptoms because I didn't want to worry anyone. But eventually my neighbor insisted on taking me to the hospital after I nearly fainted while shopping. The doctors discovered a heart condition that required treatment and rest. When Daniel heard about it, he rushed to the hospital immediately. I still remember the look on his face when he entered my room. Fear and guilt were written all over his face. He sat beside my bed, holding my hand tightly, apologizing over and over again with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I'm sorry," he whispered. "I don't know what is wrong with me anymore." For a long time, I stayed silent because honestly, part of me was still deeply hurt. Then Daniel started crying harder, and through tears, he admitted the truth. He said he spent years trying so hard to fit into wealthy professional circles that he slowly became embarrassed of the life he came from. Embarrassed of his childhood, embarrassed of poverty, embarrassed of me. Hearing those words hurt terribly. But somehow seeing my son cry like that also reminded me that beneath his success and terrible mistakes, he was still the same little boy I once held during thunderstorms. People change. Sometimes success changes them. Sometimes fear changes them too. But deep down, part of who they used to be remains. Daniel visited me every single day after that. And one evening before leaving the hospital, he carefully placed something beside my bed. His father's old wristwatch. "I think I forgot who I was for a while," he said quietly. Then he looked at me with tears in his eyes and whispered the words I think my heart had been wanting to hear ever since that night at the hotel. "I'm proud to be your son, Mom." And honestly, after everything that happened, those 5 words healed something inside me that I thought was broken forever.